Y'all, we are back, y'all. We are back with another reaction, and this reaction is catching up with D4VD and Celeste Rivers Hernandez investigation. Now, we're gonna dive into the private investigator. He knows who moved that car and alleged that Celeste Rivers Hernandez was living with someone else downtown, but her body was in that Tesla. He saw who moved the Tesla from D4VD house around the corner. He saw who did it. So let's dive into it.
A private investigator claims he's uncovered crucial new evidence in the haunting case of 15-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, the girl found in the front trunk of a Tesla registered to rising music star David. And that new evidence, he claims, includes who was the last one driving the Tesla where the teen's body was ultimately discovered.
Sandra Mitchell is live in Hollywood with more on what we're learning tonight. Sandra.
Micah and Cher, that private investigator, told me tonight that he actually has video evidence of the last person driving that Tesla. He says he has supplied it to the LAPD. He also told me tonight an arrest in the case could be coming very soon. New clues tonight about the crime involving the remains of a teen girl found in the trunk of a Tesla owned by rising star musician David.
I think she has been deceased a lot longer than what people may have originally thought. It could go back to as early as January or February, which is hard to fathom.
Private investigator Steve Fisher recently went inside the Hollywood Hills mansion where David lived just before the body of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez was found in his abandoned Tesla.
They were disturbing items.
And Fisher told KTLA he found items that could be linked to the crime. Items left behind by LAPD even after a search of the property.
There's some items, some physical items that I unfortunately can't disclose, but they are significant because they could be something that could have been used in a plan to actually get rid of her body.
Fisher also says he's uncovered interesting video from neighborhood security cameras that he's handed over to LAPD. He says he knows who was driving the car when it was abandoned in late July, presumably with the body in the trunk.
I'm certain I know who it is. I can't say, but there is surveillance from the 29th, and I'm certain I know who this person is.
The initial autopsy showed no obvious cause of death. Investigators now are waiting for toxicology reports. It's been almost 7 weeks since Celeste's body was found. No arrest and no suspects. David, real name Anthony Burke, has not commented, but he did cancel his world tour, and he has not been seen in public since then.
It's been shocking how silent he's been for somebody that really lived online, and not only him, but the people around him in his immediate orbit. They've gone completely silent. So originally, when the body was originally found, I had another missing persons case going in LA of a female, and we thought that could be that individual. And so I kind of stayed with the case for a little while until she was identified, and we knew it wasn't. And I had, discovered some other things, such as when the car was towed and photos from it being towed and whatnot. And the owner had gotten in touch with me of the house, and I shared some things with him, and it just kind of evolved from there. But one thing, I would say is he is the owner of the house. Wasn't David's landlord. David wasn't even on the lease, and the owner never even knew that David was in the house. It was actually Josh Marshall, his manager, who had leased the house.
But to be clear, David...
He was definitely staying there. It just was not known to the owner.
Right, okay. And
so where it really kind of evolved from was the search warrant was served, I believe, on the 17th or 18th, and it was a forced entry search warrant, meaning that nobody was home at the time, and they did not leave a copy of the obtain that, and we told robbery homicide, hey, listen, no warrant was left behind. David was out on tour. Josh Marshall lives out of state, we found out. So the owner had his representative go to the house immediately after he found out about this, and there was no warrant, no return. He really just wants to understand what of his property could have been taken and what the status of that is. And then also, this is troublesome when you learn something like this. All of a sudden, you're thrown into this, and he feels absolutely horrible for Celeste's family. And he's like, if there's anything that involves in and around my house that could help, then I want to discover that. And I'll tell you that there have been things that we've learned and we've turned right over to LAPD, but we think there's significant, things that could help. So much a crime. Now, and I'll just be honest with you, we don't have any evidence that anything happened to Celeste at that house, but there's definitely evidence that we've collected that helps the timeline. We now have a much better understanding of when that Tesla arrived at that final parking spot. I'll tell you, I do have surveillance from different houses in the neighborhood showing Tesla being moved. So things like that, and I'm not even saying that LAPD didn't have that. I'm sure they did, but we wanted to make sure, and we did some work on the upresing the footage to find out who was driving the vehicle, and there are some other items that were found at the house that weren't taken during the search warrant. And search warrants are limited, right? They can't just go take everything. It's what the judge, and we don't know how broad that search warrant was because we haven't seen it, and that's what we'd like to see. But there were some things that were not taken into custody of LAPD that we think are significant, and including digital media and some other things that really help nail down timeline and things like that.
And you handed that over.
That we, the things that we've recovered, we've given to LAPD within 24 hours. As far as it going to the final, that what we believe is the final parking spot where it was towed from, yes.
And
it's been given to law enforcement. They're not going to tell us if they're confirming if that's a person or not. We'll take their information. We're not going to speak on it, so I don't know. But listen, it's very clear that that neighborhood is filled with surveillance cameras, and the timelines, once we learn those dates, and we can see other things that were happening that were even public on Instagram and whatnot, or going on in those people's lives, it makes a lot of sense. So I'll say I have no evidence of a body being transferred before or after. There's no evidence of that at all. But I will say, when it was moved to that position, it was already like that. So that car had not been used in a very long time. It was super dirty, caked on dirt. I'll tell you, this was in late July. So it's bizarre because we also got media that the car was used a lot. David even spoke about it in Instagram videos. He took it to a detail shop and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, the very beginning of the year, that car, something happens, and that car's doesn't show up anymore. It's not used. It seems to disappear. And then that red Tesla learned, which we didn't know until the search warrant was served, that there's a red Tesla in the garage. I can tell you it was at least on February 1st. I believe so. I believe it, late July. Tesla was left. So for the time that Tesla was left there, he literally immediately started the tour. There was a tour bus that was leased, and I'll tell you that Tesla was moved, and literally a bus departed for tour.
Okay.
Security system. The house has got a very sophisticated security system, not just cameras, but with sensors and all types of things. It all records to a DVR. And for privacy reasons, the owner, when he leased the house, said, this is the system that's in the house, and you can use whatever functions you want on it. That's not something that then the owner could access. So we don't know if the cameras were enabled or not enabled. But if they were, it wouldn't just be cameras. It would be, we'd know anytime anybody came and went from the house, anytime anybody opened a window, everything, if they kept it like it was. But we don't know. LAPD came in and took that whole DVR system, which you would expect. And I've talked to the security company that installed the system, and they've told me, how it was set up. We think it was probably running because there's limited alerts that the security guy can see, which is stuff like if there's a major failure. And there was a low power failure warning that triggered right when they were executing, so they unplugged the system. So the system was running. Whether the cameras were covered or not, I don't know. I can tell you that some of the smoke sensors in the house were there's a lot of them. It's in the thousands. To recover, we don't have any of her at that property. We have pictures of her and that were taken by David, we assume, because it's not on a camera phone, but these photos are on a regular camera at different locations, and it really makes me think that it's likely she had another place she was staying there, but I can tell you that there was a lot of time spent towards downtown LA, and I'll say the last photo that we have of Celeste is January 2nd, 2025.